Hey everyone, welcome back. Today's video is on a new acquisition, and that is the Reate Horizon A. So if you haven't heard of Reate, they are a new company that just popped up on blade forums just a few months ago, kind of out of the blue. This guy put up essentially a for sale thread in the general discussion area and got ripped apart. Everyone explained how things worked. There was a language barrier, and that's because this is a Chinese company. So he got everything squared away, got all the paid subscriptions done, figured out what to do, and he also supported a few pass-arounds on the forums as well for his 2 model of knives. So the guy at the forefront is a guy named David Deng, and this is the Reate Horizon A. So it comes in a nice zipper pouch. With the printed logo. The inside is a nice black felt. Comes with some extra washers and screws. And then here's the knife in question. So as you can see, this is a titanium flipper, titanium scaled flipper, and it has a lot of really nice 3D machining work. Nice pivot, 3D machined pocket clip as well. And this variation is the Model A, and then there's a Model B as well. And the Model A is the more premium of the two. It does have a partially enclosed titanium backspacer that's part of the handles, versus the Model B having standoffs, 3 standoffs back here. And then this particular one is done in M390, so Bowler of Udalholm. And then the Model B, which is again the scaled down variation, uses CPM S35 VN, which is, not a slouch by any means, but M390 is obviously a more premium steel. So let's talk about the specs. Overall length is about 8.75 inches or so, and then the blade length is 3.9. And they must be measuring essentially from the pivot forward, because it doesn't feel like a 4-inch blade, or it carries quite well for a 4-inch blade. I haven't taken a ruler to it. It's not really in my realm of interest to get exact measurements. So let's talk about the specs, or let's talk about the knife and why I think it's an excellent knife. To be honest, I'm quite impressed. I saw this, again, a few months ago. I was initially interested. And then when he announced that he was doing a forum pass around, I was like, oh, I'll just wait for the knife, because I signed up. And, I recently flipped a couple knives and said, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to buy it. And I'm very pleased that I did. So let's go over it one thing at a time. First thing you'll notice is this beautiful brushed pivot. I don't know if it's stainless steel or titanium. I think it might be stainless steel, but nonetheless, it's a beautiful pivot. It does use you can use a Torx in here, and it is matching on the other side, which I prefer. I don't really like when you have a pivot that's really nice on the show side and then it's really bland on the other side. So beautiful pivot. Again, 3D machined titanium. You can see there's been a lot of machining work done on this. And again, Thomas W. of Kai, or Zero Tolerance in Kershaw, said that the 0560 3D machine scales took 1 hour and 20 minutes, and this is obviously a lot more machining, so my assumption is it'd be obviously more than 1 hour and 20 minutes, maybe close to 2 hours, maybe more. Depends on obviously the, I have no idea what it depends on, but yeah, that's something to think about. So again, it's a flipper. The flipper does have nice jimping up on top and on the back, which allows you to do the light switch method, and then also to do the preload and press down method for really good flipping action. Here's the stop pin for the blade, and as you can see, this portion here is rounded and it's not flat, and that disperses the force evenly on the stop pin to make sure that it does not flatten out in one spot over time. So if this was flat, it would flatten out the pivot as it makes contact with it, or in theory it could. So that's a nice touch for the knife. Another thing that I really, really like is the cutout reliefs for the lock bar here are among the nicest I've ever felt. They're nice and wide, really, really smooth, really well done. So as you go in, your thumb just kind of slips right in there and allows you to push that over without any trouble, without pinching or even rubbing your thumb raw. I mean, if you sit there and you flip it and you open it and close it, which you probably shouldn't because it's a tool, but we all do, your thumb can get beat up just opening and closing the lock bar, which I'm sure you've experienced. Everyone watching this has experienced with one knife or another. So that was really well done. Other nice chamfering is here. If you can see, yeah, you should be able to see that, but right here, the edge, it's not a 90-degree edge. They came in and they did probably a 45-degree chamfer on both sides. If you can see that, there we go. And so that way, as you're flipping it with your index finger, oh, damn it. All right, flipping it, your finger slides back in here along the exposed portion of the back spacer, and it's very comfortable. It's very ergonomic. There's no jimping there to jack your finger up, and it's not a 90-degree edge either. So that was also very well thought out and very well done. A little jimping on top, it works. The ergonomics of the handle with this big choil right here and then the flipper tab acting as kind of a guard, your finger locks in so well, and there's a lot of texture here on the handles. So honestly, you don't really need a lot of jimping on top. I think this is adequate, and it's well balanced. Speaking of balance, really well balanced at the choil. The weight is distributed very evenly, kind of where you want it. So that was also well done. Now another biggie for me is the stainless steel lock insert, and as you can see, it rises up a little bit there, so that acts as the over travel stop. That's as far as you can push it over before it makes contact. So lockup is about 20%, nice and strong, no stick, obviously with stainless steel to stainless steel. And again, it's a pleasure to disengage the lock bar. Detent, very good. Again, that's why this thing's a good flipper. Nice and solid, nice and robust. Let's take a look at the detent here. You can hear that. There's a nice metal clink. Very authoritarian or authoritative and very good. One other thing that I really like is the lock bar cutout is not completely straight. It curves a bit. And one thing that kind of irritates me on some of these titanium frame locks is when you have a huge gap between the frame and then the locking portion of the frame. Sometimes you'll see there'll be a big gap that you could run, I don't know, 550 cord through. There'll be a big gap right here too, and I think it takes away from, the aesthetics of the knife. I mean, this right here, the gap is so minimal that, not that you don't notice it, but it doesn't distract from the overall presentation. So I think they took a lot of time and care and made this side as attractive as this side. And again, it's a very attractive knife. Nice 3D machined titanium pocket clip. Great retention. This thing is actually really strong. It's got really, really good retention. The screws are blackened. I wish they were polished and matched the pivot. I think that would have looked nicer with this design, and that's the only hit that I can really give on this thing. And right here too, the screws from the stainless steel lock interface, I wish those were blasted or polished, but I don't know that I love the black. So anyhow, that's pretty much the overview of the knife. Again, really well made, great. I like the pattern. It offers great traction. This thing feels good. It's very solid, and it's just a beautiful knife. I'm really pleased with it, and I wish I would have just bought it sooner. So again, you have the Model A here, and then the Model B is the lower end model. The Model B comes in about at the right around the $200 mark, and then the Model A comes in the low threes. And then there is a US distributor now, that's White Mountain Knives, or you can order directly from Reate in China, and they do have very fast 3-day shipping. Everyone who's ordered directly from them has been pleased. So anyways, let's take a look at some size comparisons. So here is, could be my favorite knife, but certainly one of my favorite knives, and that's the ZT600. So the camera angle is deceiving, but the ZT600 is longer. it's not that much longer. It's really hard to get a really good comparison with the camera angle that I'm working with here, but take my word for it, the ZT is larger, of course, longer. It's an amazing knife. It's obviously a little bit smoother as well, but this thing is out of the box with no oil, so very smooth. Yeah, really smooth knife. So as far as quality and comparability, my favorite modifier, a guy with the tag Mapreek, said that this thing is as good or better than a ZT560, and I think that's a really, when you're looking to understand how well a knife is made, I think that knife modifiers, people who take them apart and see the internals and work on them, are a really good resource to go to. So I would definitely trust his opinion. And I feel that this thing is ZT quality as well. I mean, I do have a few different ones to compare it with, all of which are limited editions. The fit and the finish and the quality is just as good as any of these, although the level of refinement is a bit higher with carbon fiber inlays on these two and special finishes. And then this knife, needs no introduction as far as why it is special. But anyways, that's just kind of where I'm coming from as far as my flippers go, and what I'm comparing this to in my personal collection. So hopefully that gives you a little better understanding. But the other interesting thing about this knife is, it's essentially a blank canvas, much like the ZT801. Everyone that I have seen that has gotten this knife has basically sent it off to be modified thus far. You can anodize the handle different colors, you can do finishes on the blade. Just like the ZT801, this is a great platform to work with in terms of creating something special through the use of people that have the skills to modify or pimp a knife, if you will. So I'll be sending this one off to have some work done, and I'm not quite sure how it'll turn out yet, but I will do a follow-up video once I have that back. So it'll be a couple weeks. But anyhow, again, there is some debate actually as to whether or not this is better than a ZT801. And I think you would have to compare the Horizon B, which has the standoffs, and then the S35VN. You wouldn't want to compare this one because, again, it's a little different class than the standard ZT801. But I've held both. I've messed with the standard ZT801 multiple times, and I do like this one better. There's more machining, there's more detail in terms of the handles. It does have better ergonomics by far. They both flip reasonably well. They're both extremely high quality. I think they match up well in many of those aspects. And then when you're looking at the lower end version of this, the Model B, the price is quite comparable as well. But this one's a bit more exclusive. It is made in China. If that's not a selling point for you, then the ZT801 is American made, and it is a collaboration with an American maker as well. So different things to consider. Anyways, I would definitely recommend it. I will be interested to see what Reate does next in terms of models and so forth. I think this one is really well executed. And I'm actually friends with David on Facebook, and based on the things that he likes and who he's friends with, Southern, Bag, all of those, he's a true enthusiast, I would say, and it shows. The amount of thought that went into this. It's quite good. Anyways, when they did come up on the forum, they did get blasted a bit. Again, they posted in the wrong place. There was a language barrier. People ripped them for being from China. One person was very adamant that they're ripping off other designs, and I haven't seen anything that, obviously there are elements in this knife that you find in many other knives. They all have handles and blades at some point, so, and flippers now for the most part. But I haven't seen anything that I felt this was took any cues directly from. Obviously influences, but nothing that it ripped off. So yeah, cool knife. Check it out. Everyone that has gotten one thus far has been very pleased, including myself. Flips well, nice and smooth. It does use, I should have mentioned this earlier, obviously it uses bearings, cage bearing system. And then it has washers against the titanium. So the bearings run against the washers and they don't run directly against the titanium, which is probably good from a materials perspective. I don't know. But that's pretty much it. Comments or questions, put them down below. I will do a follow-up video once I have this modified. And yeah, thanks for watching.